So welcome to this week's episode of Women Celebrating Women. And this week I have the lovely Robyn Allan, who is the most amazing yoga teacher and just beautiful, beautiful spirit. Robyn, would you like to introduce yourself and say a little bit more about what you do?
Hey Fanny, so lovely to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I've been teaching yoga for the past few years, been interested in yoga since 2012 it was now, so it's quite a while. And yeah, it's progressed on into doing more treatments to do with Reiki and sound healing, and I feel like it's just a never-ending expansion of learning and developing in this kind of world, the spiritual world. And yeah, so that's where I'm at the minute.
Oh, I love that. I have to say, I'm totally in love with yin yoga and your yin yoga and how you combine it with your sort of massage, I don't know, and kind of essential oils. It's so relaxing, so rejuvenating. Definitely
They all
need right now.
No, they all blend so beautifully. It's like so much of an awakening to the senses. Like when I worked with my friend Natalie and we did yin and massage, and it was such a beautiful event, and it was so nice to see people really getting into a shape and feeling like they're just dropping in so much. And then the added benefit of massage, it's such a beautiful combination. So nice.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I do. I massage as well. Oh, you just, I was saying the last year I haven't had massages. Obviously, lots of people haven't. So it's so lovely to kind of think that we can start doing that again now, because it's such a, I think for so many people, actually, people who I know who are single, such a thing that they didn't realize how much they would miss that kind of personal kind of
lack of touch.
Yeah, touch in that kind of, not a kind of sexual, but just a kind of in and kind of hug.
Feeling held.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It makes such a difference. You don't realize how much the body needs it. Like just having a hug releases so much, and some people that haven't been able to access that for months and months on end, it's like, wow, you don't realize how much that affects you.
Absolutely. So, I think the science to support it. I think the science, and I don't know if I'm right in terms of what the endorphins are, but there's definitely endorphins that are released when we hug, and it might be oxytocin, but I'm not sure. But it's definitely like hormones that make us feel good when we hug each other. So I for one am very keen to get back to hugging more people.
I know
it feels the same.
It's funny, isn't it, how we're afraid of hugging now? This is crazy.
I know. That feels really strange, doesn't it? That we have that of I know for like my children, when we've kind of gone out and met people, they're like, am I allowed to touch that person? Am I allowed to do this? And it's such a readjustment I think we're going to have as we kind of start to open up places and being able to see more people.
Yeah, like reintegrating back into kind of what was once normal is now seen as something that's a little bit abnormal, and you think, oh wow, there's going to be so much change and just so much to be aware of, and feel like that was such a simple thing, but actually it's so profound to have a hug.
Absolutely. So what do you sort of in the last year, how do you think your kind of like your practices like yoga and Reiki and your kind of spiritual exploration, how has that kind of helped you? How has that worked for you, like during what has probably been for most people pretty much, one of the most difficult times that we've lived through? What have you found that's been really kind of like nurturing or nourishing?
So last year, because I was working a lot, I was doing a lot of classes just before lockdown happened, and so I thought I'm going to take a break. I went to Spain and I went back to myself and back to my own practice and focus on that rather than focusing on teaching. And I actually took time out of practicing. I went to go to practice and my body was just like, nope. And it was like I couldn't get back into my my groove of flowing, and nothing was inspiring me. And so I took several months out of practice, of any kind of movement, and I just focused on exercise. But wow, mental health changed so much, and it made me really realize how crucial it is to take that time to be dedicated and actually sit down, whether it's just breathing or whether it's just sitting there and in one posture, or just retuning back into myself in whatever way it is. So now I've really taken that as my daily routine, and if I don't do it, I feel so like desperate to practice now, which is not extreme to the other. But that is one thing that I can say to people: if you find something that really that really helps you to come back to connection with yourself, that is one thing that I'd say to try and find, whatever it is.
I totally agree. Yeah, and you're saying as well, morning practice, like a morning practice for me these days. Like I used to think, what's that? Where would I do that? Something about a morning practice that just really sets me up for the day in a way that just means I'm more grounded. It means I kind of take on the day in a kind of high vibe way, and it also helps me kind of I know in law of attraction we talk about pre-pave, but then pre-pave our day as to how we might to go, and just but like you said, finding that connection with ourselves. So I know for me, I tend to like meditate like first thing when I wake up, and then do some exercise, and then I'm kind of like, I feel like then for me that's just like, oh, I feel really good. I might listen to some inspirational like YouTube. Usually I kind of use YouTube as a bit of a who's it gonna be today, who's gonna come up, and whoever I feel drawn to, I listen to and I love how I need to think about this for myself, like a 10-minute, it's not usually a long kind of piece, but a 10 or 15-minute some inspirational teaching that is just always whatever's kind of on my mind. It always seems to answer something that I've kind of been like querying or wondering what that was about, and then you're just like, oh
yeah, I love that. There's the answer.
Who do you like to listen to? Who's if you had like kind of go to people that you're kind of inspired by, who would you listen to?
I love Ram Dass. He's always got something really interesting. Yes. Or like Joe Dispenza. I love that kind of view on life, and how expansive we can be and how simple it is, but when we just know like the formula. And Joe Dispenza is amazing for that. Yeah,
I love both of them. I mean, Ram Dass, I think I listened to years ago, and I love he has just this I mean, obviously he died, didn't he? I think he died last year or the year before?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think. And he had such an amazing energy, doesn't he? Just so, even when I think about him now, I think of someone who's incredibly centered, just very allowing and able to, hold some, and you just genuinely feel it with him that he walked the walk, as it were. Whatever he was saying, he had that experience, he'd experienced it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can feel it from them.
Yeah,
like absolutely. When somebody's actually practicing what they're speaking, it kind of, the energy speaks for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Joe Dispenza. Love Joe Dispenza. I love Joe Dispenza.
Oh, he's great.
I love his meditations. I love his he had a series on Gaia that I've always had a few series on Gaia, but one of the ones I really like is Rewired. And it's an area that I'm really interested in, is how we can rewire our brains, how we get to shift from this kind of stress response, which a lot of us, Joe Dispenza himself talks about it a lot. He says something like 70% of us spend most of our time in a kind of stress response, in a response where we're like anxious, or we're not coming from that kind of calm centered place, and yet when we can step out of that and step into a place of calm, a place of centeredness, and I love how he talks about how you have like the familiar past, is it the familiar past, and then the predictable future. We can step away from both of those and into a place of unknown that actually, when you step out of those patterns, it's not scary. So I think when we're in a pattern of
habitual behavior,
habitual behaviors, we tend to kind of like to step out of those, can feel scary, can't it, to start off with, that
comfortable,
what we're familiar with, and therefore we can, even if it's not something we want, we can predict what's going to happen because it's what's always happened. Where we can step out of that into the unknown and just go,
and be fully present and fully alive, rather than just living out of autopilot and just knowing what the next step is going to be. It's like, how alive really are you, or are you just here existing? That's what I love about him. And just the fact that he came from like his accident, and then so it's so amazing what we can do, and when we
Absolutely.
it's the power of belief and the power of aligning your thought patterns and aligning where your vision is and your intention. We're so powerful beyond our
really are. And we forget that, don't we? I think we can forget that how powerful we are. And it's great when you have someone like him to remind you that, you know, like you said, he had that accident where he was basically told that he was going to be in a wheelchair and that he would have to have an operation. I think they were talking about doing something to his spine, like fusing his spine, or he was like, no, I'm not doing that. And he literally, like you said, envisioned his spine rebuilt itself. Which is
how powerful is that?
It's incredible. It's so incredible.
And
it's
so amazing.
Go on.
How like just a continued dedicated effort can where it can lead you and what it can expand you into. And when we kind of step out of like being such a small little human that doesn't really matter, and we actually understand the technology of our body and how powerful our bodies are, how much we can expand and grow and manifest and create just purely by our thought forms. It's so amazing.
Absolutely.
That's where we're heading in some aspects.
That's what I think as well. Actually, that's what I feel more than I think. That's what I can kind of feel it in your body, can't you? When you step out of that familiar past and you step into this kind of place of unknown, where you're like, you're stepping into all the different. If we talk about all our different bodies, like our mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, or we're kind of not just living in that mental body, which is where if we just live in our mental body, there's lots of fear, there's lots of like anxiety, and there's lots of trying to control lots of things. We can step into that place of the unknown, which is stepping into all those other bodies and being able to sort of sit in that place. Feels amazing.
Infiniteness.
Exactly. Infinite possibilities.
Exactly.
Infinite possibilities. And it's not, I think a lot of people think that this is really hard to do. Like, I think there's a perception that it's really hard to change our patterns. And that's not my experience. It's not really hard. We just need to understand it, and we just need to know how to do it. And when we do, we can actually change things relatively quickly. And it's certainly been my experience. That's what happened to me in my life, because I was very ill for a really long time and chronic fatigue. And then I learned this process that just totally switched off all of that stress and helped me switch on a kind of calm response. And like, it was just like, I felt miraculous at the time, but my recovery was just like, whoa.
Expansion. That's always the way as well. When we go through something difficult, or an illness or an injury or an accident, it's like those dark parts are what shift us into where we need to be going in the highest version.
Absolutely.
Felt the depths of the darkness.
Absolutely. And I definitely, I don't know how you feel, but I love that kind of shadow work, that work of bringing to the light those dark parts of us, because actually that's where all the gold is, isn't it? It's where all the,
yeah.
the
like love-hate.
Well, yeah, sometimes. You're right. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it's challenging.
Never-ending digging. Sometimes it's like I get carried away with it, and then I think, why am I taking myself so seriously? Like, find the joy in doing it as well.
Yeah.
We get so serious about the shadow work, and especially on this kind of spiritual path and quest and mission, it's like you get so into all your habits, your darkness, your ego, the past pain that you've experienced, your traumas, and then you forget, oh, there's actually so much beauty and magic and like happiness as well. Like, we need to look at that and look at, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I know for me, if I ever get kind of, like you say, like that kind of bogged down and stuff, the message I always get coming through is lighten up, and like in every possible way. So lighten up, there's nothing serious going on. And I know sometimes that can feel really difficult when there's real trauma, so I'm definitely not saying that, you know, that not to acknowledge that we have trauma, but that just that message from our kind of guides, from source, that like, just, we can lighten up. Let's see if we can like be playful, like you said, be playful and curious.
Yeah, exactly.
The heaviness of things sometimes.
Yeah. And also it's like when we're feeling it and we're kind of re-experiencing it, or we're going to that place again, we feel it so strongly that we've kind of held on to it again, rather than acknowledging that it's there to come up to be released.
Yeah.
We cling on again, and we're like, this is my story, this is my story, this is what I am, this is what I am. Like, no, that's the past. Like, what are you now? Like, what are you working towards? We forget that we can let it go in the process, and sometimes that's what creates more pain.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's interesting when you say that, because sometimes I think that's also part of the process, is we can sometimes, when some stuff comes up to release, we kind of go into this pattern of, oh, I don't want this. Okay, I'm going to allow it. Oh God, now I feel like I am it. So now I'm like, I've become it. I am my story. I am. And then we're like, oh, and then we go, oh, hang on a minute. Oh no, I remember I'm more than this. And then I can allow it and hold it, while also seeing that I'm more than it. But it's funny, isn't it, how like I like when I do that, I'm like, oh yeah, I just got tripped up again. I just kind of started to believe that I am again. But yeah. I also feel like, and I, you know, I'm going to definitely choose this one as being my belief. I always feel like you can't unknow what you already know. So like when we've already experienced like kind of growth and expansion and a kind of this bigger kind of view of who we are, we even if we forget it sometimes, we always come back to it. We always know it's there. It's always it's always part of who we are.
Yeah, and it's like once you have expanded past what you already know, and when you can start to see the connection in all, and a higher connection to where our kind of heart is showing us, and that infiniteness inside, that's when you start to see, okay, I can laugh about this, I can feel happy that happened to me, because it is a gift, and that's why I'm here, and this is my message and my learning. But obviously when we're going through it, or when we come back to revisit it, it's like going through it all again. It's experiencing trauma.
Yeah, and it's sort of being gentle and kind to ourselves sometimes, isn't it, about that? And also I love the analogy that I know other people have used of like this kind of layers of an onion, and we can kind of peel off a layer of, you know, certain experiences we have, and that will kind of give us some growth and expansion, but then we'll come back to it and there'll be another layer, and it's just there's ever, you know, ever deepening layers, as it were. Never, because I think sometimes we can feel like oh, this again. Oh, I thought I kind of released this. And actually, we never come to anything. We're never in the same place. So although it might feel similar, or it might feel like it's the same, it never is, because we're always growing, we're always expanding. So we're coming at it from we're in a different place when we experience it the next time and the next time. And I know that really helps to kind of know that it's not I'm getting it wrong.
yeah, and it's like just coming at it from another angle, or like a deepening of it. And I think we often forget that there's beauty to be found in it, rather than thinking, oh, why am I here again, or why am I learning this lesson again? I thought I'd dealt with that. It's like, oh, trying to see, okay, I didn't see this aspect, or I can grow more, or I can expand more, or I can open my heart to more love because I felt so much pain. It's
Absolutely.
like we forget that everything is dual, and we have to experience the heavier stuff to be able to feel the lighter and the more love and the more glorious stuff. But yeah, I think we often feel quite hard on ourselves and what we're working through, and I, for one, am definitely like that. I always get impatient with myself, or I feel like I should be somewhere, or I shouldn't be doing this. And it's like a constant daily revisiting of things and deeper understanding. And it's like a flower blooming. It's like we're constantly blooming. Yeah, and I think sometimes we miss the magic because we feel like we should be somewhere, or we should be doing something.
And it's so interesting, isn't it? Because that shoulding is actually what stops us from connecting with who we are right now. I shouldn't be here, or I should be doing this, or I should feel this, or I shouldn't feel that. Whereas actually you can just allow and just come back to it. Great, that pattern's coming up again. Brilliant.
Yeah.
What's it gonna great. And sometimes we don't manage that, and then we just go, great, I'm feeling judgmental. Great, I don't want to be here. Great, and just keep coming back to all of it's okay. So even the stuff we don't want, even the thoughts we have about, I don't think I should be here, or I shouldn't feel like this, we can even allow those thoughts as well, like everything. And that I think is so amazing when we can feel that, when we can get to that place of and it's a bit paradoxical, but allowing the not allowing. So allowing ourselves space to not want to have something, to not want to experience something, or want it to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
As we do that, we stop being in the pattern, because we're observing and seeing it, rather than caught up in it, as it were.
Yeah, and it's like we think that there's an end, because we're so fixated on time. We think there's a beginning, there's an end. I should be by the end by now. I've dealt with this enough. And it's like, no, this is the whole process. Oh yeah, still in the process.
It's the journey. It is. Yeah. It's the it's a little bit dry these days, but it is the journey, not the destination. It really is.
I know, and it's such a cliche quote, but it's so crucial and so relevant always, because I think we're also, especially where we live, it's very focused on being driven towards the next goal, the next success, and like progressing and doing so well, that we always feel like, or I do anyway, I need to have completed that level of shadow work, or completed that level of that pattern and that habit.
That's so interesting, isn't it? How I'm so glad you brought that up, how we bring over our kind of, and there's nothing wrong with our ego, and that's the whole thing, I guess, is to not kind of say we shouldn't have an ego, or shouldn't, but like all our kind of egoic goals come with us from, like when we come to a spiritual journey or a spiritual practice, we bring it all with us, because we suddenly start, and I know I always think this whenever I do yoga, and I was laughing at myself the other week. I had my first in-person yoga class for ages. And I was in the class, and I was looking around, and I realized I was going, who can do downward dog as well as me? Whose feet are flat? And then I just started laughing to myself, because then in the next moment I'm like, oh, oh, she's way better than me at that. Oh God, yeah, my hips are really tight. Look, oh God, look how flat her knees are when she and oh my gosh, she's really. And then I just started laughing to myself inside, not outside. Don't worry, I wasn't laughing. I was slightly crazy. That I was just having all these thoughts, and then I was just like, great, okay. Let's come back to like, there's not a competition, that I'm competing with myself. You know, just to see if I can come back to my body, come back to how it feels, what is the experience, see how long I can manage that. And 5 seconds later, I've probably gone off again.
Gone off on a tangent. That's the thing. It's like, because we've all been in our own little zone in our own homes. Like, we've had kind of nothing to compare to, and then it's like, as we've come back into reality again, it's kind of like a harsh slap around the face of what we're still experiencing is even more heightened. So we have the heightening of going inward, and now we have the heightening of coming back out again. And it's like, how are we integrating all of this? And I think that's where coming back to the practices, like whatever it is, whether it's dancing or meditation or just having a routine every day where you're harvesting that container for yourself, beginning or end of the day, or both ideally. Journaling, all of those reflective kind of practices, it's like that's so crucial for where we're heading, and to allow us to feel supported in our own way, because I mean the NHS has probably had a hard time during this, and we have to take ownership of ourselves, and how are we managing ourselves, what works for me, how can I support myself, because at the end of the day you only have yourself. And I think that was kind of a harsh reality in some aspects, but also
I love what you're saying about that, creating a space for ourselves. And I think particularly, and it's not necessarily gender specific, but I do think there's lots of women in particular where they do so much for other people and they forget to come back to themselves.
100%.
And also feel like it's not okay to think of themselves, or
guilt.
And certainly for me, that's been I probably have always been pretty good at putting myself first, and I'm feeling less guilty about it these days, that it's okay to do it. But that to create a space and a container for ourselves to hold space, that and I know that kind of can seem a little bit ethereal, what does that mean? But hold space for ourselves, like be able to kind of go inward. And like you said, just have some sort of reflective practice. Is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it could be reading sort of like something that kind of uplifts us, like a spiritual writing or poetry or whatever it might be, but that kind of space of like introspection and reflection, when we've kind of, like you said, we've had probably like well over a year now, in and outs with it, but where we've had a lot more time for that. Now it's sort of about honoring ourselves as we kind of go out a bit more into the world, that it's okay to still create that space for ourselves.
Totally crucial.
I
think like the Western world has kind of dismissed the idea of rest, and we think of it as like it's selfish. I had a long period of time where I really felt selfish and guilty for putting myself first, and it's like, wow. I had a coaching session and the lady said to me, like, you're the star of your own movie, so why the hell are you like thinking of everybody else apart from yourself? Like, why are you constantly looking at what's going on around you and not looking at yourself, not looking at how you can support yourself? What do you need? How are you feeling? She said, have you even asked yourself, how am I feeling today? And I was like, that's an odd question to ask, but it's like, we don't even think to do that. And
sometimes people don't to do that, and it's so that you do and that you're recognizing it. I think one of the things that I've kind of really loved about coming into getting more of a deeper understanding of law of attraction is something that's called being vibrationally productive. So it's taking time for yourself, and not doing very much could be very vibrationally productive if you sit there and you're relaxing and you're feeling really good. And actually, when we do that, that gives us space to really sit and be in a place of receiving, as long as we're like at the receiving mode, but being able to receive, to allow, to open. And then like inspiration comes to us. We can feel inspired to, oh wow, I hadn't thought about doing this, but I'd love to go off and, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. I can't think of it. I definitely, doing the podcast was inspired. It was like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And then I just but that is just so important to do that, and to permission. Even I don't manage this every day, but I do try and do it most days. Is if I have quite a lot of meetings in my day, and it's like taking time before each meeting to just kind of take a few breaths and just come back to myself and just go. And it actually only takes, you don't need like,
it's just a thought,
just even like a few seconds of like coming back to myself. Feeling
your heartbeat, feeling your breath, embodied,
feeling my feet on the ground, feeling my body in wherever I'm sitting, and connecting with it, and then saying, okay, now I can move on to the next thing, the next transition, I guess, which is what everything is, isn't it? Whenever we move from one thing to another, it's a transition of sorts.
Exactly.
So I want to hear more about what you've got going on. What have you got coming up that people can think about around if they want some self-care, some self-nurturing? What exciting things have you got going on?
I'm so excited to feel the movement back into this. I feel it's been so nice to have a rest and to really draw all my energies back in. So now I feel super inspired, and I've got quite a few beautiful people that I'm working with as well, collaborating on a few different things. So in July, I've got a retreat coming up with my best friend. We're taking a few people out to Fair Oak Farms in Sussex, and we're just working. Yeah, it's going to be so beautiful. It's in the middle of the countryside, nothing around, no cars beeping at you. And we're just focusing on deep healing, redirecting and re-navigating ourselves to really purposefully move forward. And that's the theme of that retreat. And it's encompassing yin, vinyasa, hatha tantric, yoga. We've got sound healing, Reiki, and different treatments. So it's going to be super, super nourishing, and really beautiful chef working with us. She takes very local foods, and she just creates really beautiful menus. So the whole experience is going to be super nourishing, and we're just so excited to be able to be back in person with people and holding space. It's a completely different feeling to working online. I love working online, and it's been so beautiful. I have a Monday class that I do regularly, and that's been so nice to see everyone's faces, but just to be in person, be able to have a hug and just say hello and really tune into each other's energies. So we've got that coming up in July, and I'm working on a few other day retreats locally, so around Essex, mainly Essex, Epping and Bishop Stortford Way. So they're in planning. And,
I love this.
And at the minute, I'm focusing on Reiki mainly, one-to-one. So that's I feel like I'm learning more. I'm doing a teacher training with Hatha Tantric Yoga, which is blowing my mind. It's like so much more information. So I'm studying for that, and then focusing on doing one-to-ones with the Reiki and yoga.
That's amazing. Your retreat from the 12th to the 16th. I'm just already like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go, because I might not be. I might have other things on, but I feel like when you were just talking about it, I'm like, oh, I can feel it already. I can feel the energy of it. It just feels amazing. Just sounds incredible. So definitely make sure we put some links in, and when I post the recording for anyone who might be interested. And one-to-one retreats, love. One day retreats, love. And the Reiki, again, such a beautiful practice.
Yes.
It really helps us connect with our energies, doesn't it? Really connect with what's going on in our energy body.
So subtle. It's such a subtle practice, but it shifts so much. And the more that I've been doing like self-healing and working with other people, and just within a matter of weeks, how it can shift people's mindsets and just things that people have been kind of stuck on for a long time, it really, really helps shift energies that's dense and stuck and ingrained in the psyche. And like going back to what we were talking about earlier, just about Joe Dispenza and the way it's just a thought form and an energetic shift. It's like this is all tying in so beautifully, and it's really expanding my mind and blowing my mind as well. Like
it's amazing.
Something so subtle can be so powerful. And yeah, I think we all have the power to heal and to heal ourselves and work to heal each other. And I really believe like that's where we're kind of heading with this movement. And hopefully we're all kind of stepping more into our heart spaces and wanting to support each other, wanting to work more in community. And I think that's what we need moving forward. So that's what I'm trying to bring more into what I'm offering and what I'm talking about, and where I'm sharing with other teachers and therapists and things like that.
That's amazing, and it's exactly where I am as well, Robyn. It's like, well, let's work together, let's support each other, let's grow the community, a community of like support and love and heart opening and healing and holding, like, you know, we were talking earlier about holding space for ourselves, but when we can hold space for ourselves, we can then hold space for others as well.
Exactly.
When we do that just is so powerful, and really can, like, in the same way that I love yoga classes because the energy of the class is very different, particularly face to face rather than online. Like you, the online has been great as a way to make sure I still stay engaged with it, but there's nothing like a kind of in-person class. But that thing about where the collective energy of a group that just shifts everyone within the group, we all hold space for ourselves and each other. I love that.
Yeah, it really does. And going on retreats and things like that, like, you're all working with such strong intention, and you're all there to expand and to really drop inward and to make new connections and to meet new people and push yourself past the comfort zone and to deeply heal. And when we're going on, they always go so quickly because they're so beautiful, you just want to absorb it all. But it's like when we all go on retreat together and we're in a space that's so deep in nature and all the elements that we kind of, well, we have been able to a bit more with COVID, but in regular life when we're working so much and life is so busy and hectic and we forget to take that time to slow down, it's such a nice way to just pause and rediscover yourself. And where am I at? What is going on? How can I move forward intentionally and consciously? And how can I manage my energy, direct my energy? How can I become more powerful? And I think when we really take the time to rest, it's super powerful. Like we don't realize the power in rest. And when we really get to experience that and take a few solid days of rest and a few solid days of introspection, the amount of shifts that happen and the space that we create and the inspiration that flows through, like you're saying, that we just create that silent space for the universe to come into the body and the mind to kind of have a rest and have a break.
Take a back seat. Yeah.
So I'm so excited for that.
I'm so excited for you. I'm going to see if I can find a way to join. I'm going to.
Yay, that'd be so nice to see.
It's been so lovely. Just so lovely to connect with you again, because I just think you're amazing, and I love your energy and I love what you're doing, and I love how you're helping others as well in what you're doing. It's such a heartfelt connection that you have with everyone. So thank you so much for joining me today. I've just loved speaking with you.
Thank you so much, Fanny. It's so beautiful to connect with you again, and really thank you so much for holding space. It's so lovely that you're doing these podcasts. They're so nice.
Thank you.